それがなんだ。私は呪霊のいない世界も牧歌的な平和も望んじゃいない。私から生まれるものは私の可能性の域を出ない。マーキング済みの2種類の非術師に遠隔で無為転変を施した。前者は器としての強度。これからの世界だよ。じゃあね、虎杖裕二。五条先生!
Before the video starts, about 96% of you guys are not subscribed. Subscribing and clicking that notification bell does help me out a lot in doing what I really want to do. Thank you guys so much for all the support.
What is going on, guys? Rogue TCG here bringing another Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG deck profile. This is going to be Orcust Cartesia. This is going to be the most updated version that I have at the moment. Y'all voted. First deck of the week is going to be Orcust. This deck is a lot of fun. One big thing about this deck is it does play very well around Droll, which is a format staple right now. One other thing is it doesn't play very nicely against Graveyard Hate. However, since we are playing a certain engine in the deck, sometimes we can get around it. Especially because Gearsu, and I will be explaining that just a little bit later. But that's enough yapping. Let's get on to the profile. Alright, for our main, let's start off with our Orcusts. We are starting off on a triple Gearsu, the Orcust Mekk-Knight. On normal or special, it'll send an Orchestra World Legacy from your deck to the grave, and then on Initiative, if Gearsu is the only monster on your field, you can create a level 1 token to both players' side of the field, and that's it. It makes a token and it dumps a thing. The token is very important because it lets you activate your Bystials on your own turn without having to have had your opponent Bystial you once before. So if we do send a card, we can force an early Bystial banish by activating the Orcust Mekk-Knight's effect on field to make a token on ours and our opponent's side. So now they control a monster that was special summoned, so we can special summon our Bystials. We are on 1 Harpor, the one that is legal. As long as Harpor is at 1, I believe this version of the deck might just be a little better. If it's at more, then I think the Horus version would be better just because you can mill the cards off of the Zombie Vampire and you have a higher chance of milling Harpor, while this deck specifically sets up Harpor in the grave as frequently as it can. We are on 2 Orcust Nightmare. We're going to be able to do our combo multiple times, and our Orcusts are not bricks in this deck. Speaking of, we are on 2 Orcust Symbol Skeleton. Orcust Harpor, sorry, I apologize. Orcust Harpor, you can banish it, special summon an Orcust from your grave, Dark locks you. Can't summon anything but Darks for the rest of the turn. Nightmare, banish it, target a monster on the field, send a Dark Machine from your deck to your grave. That card gains attack equal to the level times 100, and then you're locked again to Darks. And then Orcust Symbol Skeleton, you can banish it from your grave, target an Orcust, special summon it, then you're Dark locked. These are all once per turns. Lastly, we're on 1 Orcust World, Orcust, might as well say Orcust. World Legacy World 1, you can banish a card from the grave, and then special summon an Orcust that is banished. Very powerful card, so we are playing 1. It is a World Legacy, so Gearsu can also send it, but typically we're going to be sending this off to the graveyard, either with Gearsu or with Nightmare. And then our honorary Orcust, 1 tier limit Sheeran. Sheeran lets you just dump any card from your hand and then mill some cards. Same philosophy as the Zombie Vampire, but you are still milling 3. You can potentially dump an Orcust card from your hand, and it's a body on board. Just a lot of very powerful stuff all wrapped up in one package. That's it for the Orcust monsters. Now, I'm going to try a different strategy with this deck profile. Let's get on to our Orcust spells and traps. We are on 1 Orchestrated Babble, 1 Orchestrated Return, and then 1 Orcust Crescendo. I am actually considering upping Orchestrated Babble to 2. Orcust Babble is very, very powerful when your deck is needing to play around the Bystials. And the Orcust play very, very well under the Bystials, under the condition that Babble is on the field. As long as Babble's on the field, if your opponent Bystials, you can just respond with the Orcust effect. It banishes itself for its cost, so your opponent can never respond to your Orcust graveyard effect with a Bystial, really. So once you put a Babble on field, the Bystials can't do anything to your Orcust. So if you know your opponents are playing Bystials, you need to get Babel on board ASAP. But that's all the Orcust cards in the main deck. That's why I did that. These are all the Orcust cards. There are no more Orcust cards, period, in the main. Next, secondary engine. Cartesia. I love Cartesia. She is my bae. Orcust Cartesia lets us fuse using a monster from our hand or field. It could include itself, and we can fuse into its fusion monster, which then allows us to send a level 6 or higher dark or light from either our deck or our extra deck to the graveyard. Orcust Nightmare is a level 6 or higher dark or light, and it can then send Harpoor to the grave, which is our 1 card starter from the graveyard. So if we can fuse Cartesia plus any light or dark monster, we get full Orcust combo. So the entire deck is functionally lights and darks, all the Orcusts are dark, and we want to fuse with those because we want those engraved. So this is the entire philosophy behind the deck. And also Orcust Cartesia, not Orcust Cartesia, I apologize. Blazing Cartesia can return itself from your grave to your hand at your end phase, even the turn to activate its effect, as long as the fusion monster was sent to your graveyard that turn. You summon the fusion monster. You're not keeping it on field, you're linking it off, so it's going to be sent to the graveyard. Now onto our not Orcust Cartesia, I apologize once more, our branded spells. Run triple Branded and High Spirit. Branded and High Spirit lets us reveal a monster from our hand, reveal a monster that shares the same type as that monster on an extra. That's a level 8 that has 25 attack or 25 defense. We can choose to send both to the grave to add a card that mentions Albaz. Hint, hint, it's Cartesia. We can send any one of our Orcusts to add Cartesia. We can send any one of our spellcasters, including Cartesia, to find Cartesia if we really want to. We're running Veiler, so we can get that to search Cartesia. So this lets us pitch an Orcust to search our combo starter. So that's the reason we're playing it. This, however, does not play around Droll, except it does because it's a quick effect. So we're always going to be activating this in the standby phase. And this is the only the thing that we have to resolve. The only other card that we have that really searches, or either searches or draws cards, is going to be Orchestrated Return and the upcoming card, which I'm going to include in this package, the branded package, being Bestial Lubellion. This can search one of our Bestials. The reason I'm including it is because we are playing one branded return, which is the main purpose of Bestial Lubellion, is to get the branded return on the field, because branded return works so well with the Orcusts, being able to constantly recur your resources without having to activate the effects of the links. Because frequently when you're playing Orcust, if you get into a grind game, you have to keep activating the link effects even though you're not really going to be resolving them. So you're activating them just to shuffle your Orcust back in the deck so you can keep on looping. But if you use your gain, you can keep putting them back and keep drawing cards, as well as get advantage by all your used Bestials. So I don't see why I wouldn't be playing it, especially if it's searchable. Then speaking of it being searchable, it is, because Bestial Lubellion is a level 8 light monster, so we can send it to the graveyard with Grand Guganol if we would like to. That is it for our branded engine. Now onto our Bestials. I'm putting our Bestials with our Handtraps. That's another reason why the Bestials are away from our Lubellion. So for our Handtraps / Bestials, you're on 1 Magnamut. On summon, it will activate the effect to search a dragon during the end phase. We are on double Baldrake. Baldrake has the on-field effect where you contribute a different light or dark monster when your opponent summons a monster from the extra deck to then banish that card they summoned from the extra deck. Very powerful interruption. Just not really many people play it because they need the extra monsters. Orcust got you. You bring out Dingirsu, and then after you bring it out and send a card with its effect, it's just a dummy sitting there. And I mean during your opponent's turn when you bring it back with your symbol skeleton. It's not going to have any materials on it, so it's not going to protect anything. It's just a little guy sitting there. So might as well tribute it for the Baldrake if you're not going to link it off with IP, or if you're already linked with IP. 1 Saronir. This can be used in order to send Branded and High Spirits, which can then be added back to your hand. Or you can use it to send, more than likely, the Bestial Lubellion. And then lastly, the 1 Druisworm for when we're using... this one we use primarily when we're link climbing, just in order to break boards. That's it for our Bestial hand traps. Now on to our more typical hand traps. We are on 1 Veiler. The rest of the Veilers are on the side. Format Superstar, Droll, and Lockbird. This card can search Cartesia, because this card is a spellcaster. So we can pitch that, and I'll show you the extra card that we'll be pitching for that. but we can search Cartesia with that. So those are our monster hand traps, and then lastly, triple imperm. Next, our power spells. 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Called by the Grave, 2 Forbidden Droplet, and triple Book of Moon to dodge Infinite Impermanence and Veiler, because that is the main way our Cartesia is going to be interacted with. That is it for the main. That's all the cards. Now on to the extra and then side. Alrighty, now for our extra. For links, we're on 1 Link Karibo, 1 SP Little Knight. SP Little Knight seems specifically designed for this deck because we make links and we make Xyz monsters that we want to immediately be sending to the grave just to get them in rotation. We can send Grad Guganol, which is a fusion, which counts. So everything that we're really going to be aiming to send to grave that's going to be accessible to us at all times is our links and our Xyz and our fusions. So we're always going to be able to trigger that first effect to banish a card, and then we can maintain it on field with our Galatea and keep tagging out either the SP or the Galatea in order to maintain an Orcust name on field in order to keep linking in the future. Because a lot of times with Orcusts, if your board gets completely cleared in your graveyard, you don't have any recursion, the thing that you need to get started is an Orcust name in order to make a secondary Galatea. But if you can SP Little Knight and perhaps banish a Girsu or something, and then your opponent wipes your field, including the SP, when the Girsu comes back, you can make that token, and then you can make that Galatea. So I think that's personally like, just there's so many different lines that SP Little Knight in this deck enables that it seems like it's custom built for it. Speaking of which, IP Masquerena. IP Masquerena, funny enough, is pretty much our boss monster. We're going to be ending on IP Masquerena 99.99% of the time, because it is going to be our turn when we pass. We like playing on our opponent's turn, and we want to be playing on our opponent's turn, getting as much advantage as possible, just drowning them in that advantage. Next, for our Orcust stuff, we are on 2 Galatea. Galatea can target a banished machine in your banish zone. Banishment now. Target a banished machine in your banishment and put it back into your deck, and then you can choose to set an Orcust spell or trap from your deck to your field. That is a once per turn, and then if it's linked, meaning if it's pointing to something, it is not being able to destroy by battle. That's the best way I can put it. You can't destroy by battle. So this card is actually really good because we always want to be putting our Girsu token in the middle column, so we can comfortably sit on a Galatea if we get interrupted, because that Girsu token will be Galatea will be pointing to the Girsu token, so at least they can't run over the Galatea. Next, 1 Long Girsu. Long Girsu is very powerful. You can shuffle back 2 banished machines in order to send a linked monster your opponent controls to the graveyard. Doesn't target, doesn't destroy, recycles your resources, and the only downside is this guy can't attack for the rest of the turn. Sounds like a win-win to me. Like, that's very, very powerful. We are on 1 Nightmare Unicorn because I'm too broke to buy 2 SP Little Knight. That's kind of a joke. Nightmare Unicorn is very powerful in this deck because you are able to discard your extra Orcusts that are in your hand. If you need an Orcust name engraved and the only one you have is banished and the other one's in your hand, you're able to both remove a threat with Nightmare Unicorn and gain advantage by getting that Orcust card in your grave. So we can comfortably end on that first turn of SP Little Knight and IP Masquerena if we want to. It just gives us so much flexibility with the Unicorn. And then lastly, we are on 1 Access Code Talker in order to just really frustrate our opponents. We're only able to pop 1 card because our entire link suite is dark, but being able to pop a card in your opponent and not being able to respond to it is just so powerful that it's here anyway. This guy is also going to be a 5300 attacker most of the time, which is larger than anything that we can really make, even with Boral Sword consistently, because he's able to make 5300 by himself and not require any other help. That's the reason he's in over Boral Sword. That's it for our links. Now onto our Xyz. We are playing 2 Dinkirsu of the Evening Star. You can only summon him once per turn. When he's summoned, you can either attach a banished machine to it as material, or you can send a card on the field to the graveyard. Doesn't target, doesn't destroy, just like Longirsu, except it sends anything. It also has the effect where if it has a material underneath of it, if a card effect would destroy your cards, or if your cards would be destroyed by battle, you can attach a material from him instead, as long as he has material. And you can also XC summon him by just smacking him over a link, kind of like a Zodiac. So a lot of text there, which means it's typically a good sign if there's a lot of text on a card. So this card is very powerful. We're frequently actually going to be bringing this guy back from the grave. A lot of people only play one of him. However, like I mentioned, a lot of cards can banish cards, and I'm not afraid of those necessarily because we can bring him back from banished zone too. Sorry, banishment as well. The thing is, when he's banished face down, we can't bring him back. Just like Kashtira Fenrir and such, and Unicorn. So we want to maintain 2 in here because I respect those decks. So I don't want to just auto lose to that and not have access to one of our key cards for the entire strategy. Last XCs, Typhon, format staple. I don't really think there's much else to say. If we know we might be going second, we kind of want to be putting Typhon in, just as a last ditch effort. In case nothing of our entire combo happens and we're going second, we can at least make a Typhon. Now, on to the fusions. We are on double Greg Guggenall. This card is not only a level 8 fusion, but is also a spellcaster with 2500 attack and defense, so it is a branded and high spirit target, which we can discard Cartesia, Droll, or Effect Veiler in order to search Cartesia. This card in grave, you can banish it from either the field or the grave when your opponent summons a monster with a monster's activated effect. And you can special summon either a Despia monster from your extra deck or a Dogmatica card from your main deck. On summon, you can send, again, a level 6 or higher light or dark from your extra deck or deck to the grave. That's the entire reason we're playing it. And then for other branded and high spirit target, Sprind the Iron Dash Dragon. It is a machine. Prior, we were playing Kit to pair with the Sprind. However, it is a little bit more of a brick. We're not always going to be opening branded and high spirit. So we're not always going to get Sprind and Grave. So why include the brick? And it's like win more. We can just cut down the deck, make it more consistent and more concise, while making the high-end end boards a little less high-end. And lastly, I'm going to put this in the fusion section. 1 Despian Lulu Willilith to pair with our Greg Guggenall. This is functionally a monster negate. Every time a card leaves the extra deck, once per turn, so we can choose whenever it happens. When a card leaves the extra deck, we can target a card our opponent controls and negate its effects, and then all monsters we control gain 500 attack permanently. Very powerful effect. And just being able to poop this card out for not even paying its cost or anything is very powerful. It's just another level of interaction we can put up against our opponents just to piss them off and really annoy them. But that's it for our extra. Now onto our side. Alright, starting with our side, of course we need our field center and token. We have our Astolfo token and our field center, as well as our World Legacy tokens. They are level 1. We want to make sure we're accurate. However, if you do not have tokens, that's alright, not judging. Now onto our actual side deck. For our hand traps that we can side in or out for our current ones that we have double Fantastical Dragon Phantasme. Pairs very well against certain decks in the formats, like Unchained and such. It can really let us fix up our hand since we are a little bit more of a bricky deck. However, the Cartesia Engine really tries to smooth that over. It's a searchable card with Bestial Magnamut. However, we're probably not going to be searching it, and it is a dark monster, so we can reveal it with Branded and High Spirits. Next, there are other 2 Veilers sitting in the extra deck. If, for example, like one of our cards isn't really working out, Bestials aren't really working, we can decide on the Veilers. It's perfectly fine. They're still branded and high spirit targets. You can still fuse them off with Cartesia, except they're probably going to be more work better than the Bestials. Like, let's say they're playing Kashtira. The Bestials really aren't going to be doing much there. We're on double DD Crow. I want to respect Labyrinth as much as I can, as well as other graveyard reliant strategies that aren't necessarily light or dark related. So I do want to put the DD Crows in just for that. I do not want to suffer the price of undervaluing the card called Transaction Rollback. I do not want to undervalue that card in the slightest, so that's why those are there. Lastly, for our hand traps, another light monster, Nibiru. Pretty self-explanatory why that card's in there, because it's a light monster, and I like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Now, onto the other portion of our extra, our board breakers. We are on double Twin Twister and the last Droplet. Twin Twister is very powerful in this deck. Not very good for, it hasn't been really great in a couple years. However, the discard in this deck isn't really a cost. It's typically a pro, because we can discard like a Nightmare, Orcust Nightmare to the grave in order to just get off to the races, which is another reason why the Cartesia deck, I think, has increased tolerance to interaction via the graveyard hate, because you're able to so many routes to get different Orcusts into the grave in rotation. So many different options are available to you. Even when options get taken away, you still have other options. So these cards are just very powerful in general because, again, they send cards from your hand or field to the graveyard in case of Droplet in order to interact with your opponent, cards that you most likely wanted in the grave anyway. Next, we are on a triple evenly matched. Very powerful card. Like, everyone kind of knows that. Again, I want to respect the back row decks. So these are in there for that and the Build-A-Board decks. And then lastly, this is a little bit of a spicy card that someone in the comments told me about. I don't quite remember. If I can find the comment, I will put it up if I can find it. But we got an extra deck card in the side deck. We got Mysterion, the Dragon Crown. It needs a spellcaster and a dragon, which is just Cartesia and any bestial. And let me just read it aloud for you guys, and I'll put the text up on screen for you guys. Cannot be used as fusion material. It loses 100 attack for each of my banished cards. If a monster uses its activated effect to special summon itself, or a monster with the same original type, you can target one of those special summon monsters, banish that monster, also banish all monsters from the field with its same original type. You can only use this effect of Mysterion the Dragon Crown once per turn. This card is here for those dickhead fire decks. If you play them, no offense. I mean no offense to you. I have the Fire King stuff as well. But my god. There's just so much drama, and I'm just so drained from hearing all this drama and fire decks are the best. And then Bonfire is so expensive. I'm tired of hearing about the fire decks. Talk about Orcust. I love Orcust. I'm the exact same with Orcust, so I can't really talk shit or anything. This is my lane, and I'm going to try and stay in it. But this is Mysterion. This is a thing I'm testing. I'm not sure if it's going to stay in here, but it is just something cute that I saw, and I can't make it. And I probably might just include this in the extra deck if I can find a slot to cut, because if I'm playing the Bestials, just another route of flexibility, just another way to put an interaction, especially if my opponent isn't expecting this card. One of the best ways to win games is to really just surprise your opponent, throw them off their game. If you do stuff in the game that your opponent doesn't think you're going to be doing, if you play cards that they don't think you're going to be playing, 99% of the time they're not going to be prepared for them. And I'm not talking about Nibiru and stuff. I'm talking about when White Woman was released, Underworld Goddess. When she first came out, no one was talking about her. $20 secret rare, no one had it. And then after a while, I saw it, and I'm like, holy shit. And no one expected it. And I'm cleaning house. Drytron can't beat me because no one's expecting it. So what I'm saying is, just because not everyone is playing it doesn't mean it's not a good card. You have to use your own deduction skills in order to think about whether a card is going to be good. Because again, Yu-Gi-Oh is very sure, it's a competitive game where there are standards and everything and all that, but also you can put your own twist to the decks. You just need to be able to explain why and provide your reasoning for it and take advice from others. I try and take all y'all's advices on the live streams and such. I appreciate y'all coming by this past week. I'm going to put this in a different category so y'all can skip it and such. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Thank y'all so much for watching the video. It really means a lot. If you want to talk to other Yu-Gi-Oh players in a competitive manner, please feel free to check out my Discord. We are still growing, but we would love to have you, and we plan to do some events sometime soon. You'll also be able to do cool stuff like vote on future videos and topics of videos, so swing by sometime and check us out. I also started a Patreon, so that'll be linked in the description of my videos from now on. Donating would mean a lot and would help in producing these videos. Right now, there's only one tier, being Tier 1 Femboy. This tier includes access to an exclusive Discord channel where you'll be able to talk amongst other femboys and have access to discussions with me as well as getting a shout out in every video following your patronage. Thank you so much for all your support.